Hey everyone, Pratik here, back again with another video. So this is a really special episode. Today I'll be talking to Heath Adams, a CyberMentor. He's a great security researcher, CEO of TCM Security, YouTuber, pentester, red teamer. He did many certifications like OSCP, OSWP, eCPTX, EWPTX, and many more. So as a security researcher, I truly admire his work and I am obliged to have him with us today. So without talking too much, let's get started. But first, let's roll the intro. So first of all, thank you so much for taking time out and joining me on my channel. I am very honored to have you as my guest.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
So Heath, my first question is, how did you get started into hacking and how was the transition from management to technical?
Yeah, so I was an accountant in my former life, I guess, and I was working. I was chasing money. Is kind of the best way to put it. I grew up really poor, and I took a career in a field that I thought was pretty safe. Everybody needs an accountant, and you always have a job. So went after that, and out of grad school, I got a pretty good job offer living in the middle of nowhere. And it was for, decent money at the time for me. And so I moved away from all my friends. I went and lived basically in the cornfields. It was, very, very remote area, long drives because I had to live in somewhat of a city, but it was 45 minutes to an hour each way to work. I was going into work. It was dark out. I was coming home. It was dark out. And eventually I had this, I guess, epiphany that this wasn't really the life for me. I was, I could do the work, but it wasn't something where I was excited. I was always upset or, about going into work. And for me, it was exacerbated by having a pretty bad manager too. And, one day I just decided I can't take it anymore. I literally got my badge, my company card, everything, and I put it on my table. I left at lunch and I never looked back. That was my last day as an accountant. And I had to really think about what it was that I wanted to do. I had been using computers since I was 4 years old. I started on Prodigy before AOL, and then I was on AOL. And during that time, I was coding in Visual Basic. We were making chatbots. I was coding and doing HTML, back in the day, and building websites. And there was a lot of passion for computers that I never decided to follow. And so when I did some self-reflecting, I said, I'm going to try this computer thing out, even though I really don't know a bunch. So I ended up dropping everything where I was at and moving out west to New Mexico here. And I started applying for jobs. In the job that I found was one that required 3 years of experience, A plus, Net plus, Security plus. I didn't have any of that. I almost didn't apply, and I ended up applying. They brought me in for the interview, and I landed a job doing help desk. And to keep the story short, I guess, is while I was working at help desk and kind of studying, one of my coworkers told me, "Hey, do you know that there's a certification called the Certified Ethical Hacker?" And I was like, "You can get paid to hack?" I thought hackers were the bad guys in the hoodies. So my passion pretty much ignited from there. And it was just, hey, how do I get into the field? I went home. I was on Reddit. I was on Google doing all kinds of studying, learning about what certifications I should get, what training I should get. What kind of skill sets I needed to become an ethical hacker. And then I just kind of followed that path, created one for myself, followed that path, and wound up here. So
Yeah, that was a great motivational story. Second question is, how did you study? Like, what is your best resource for learning? Did you do like any courses or something?
yeah, so I studied pretty much any time that I could. So when I first got my job in help desk, I went through the A plus, Net plus, Security plus. For that, I used Professor Messer. Is a great resource, free online. Mike Myers through Udemy was great. And then I found CBT Nuggets to be really good. And just the short, I don't know if it's ADHD or what, but I can't read for long periods of time. My mind just wanders off a page. So like short digestible videos that are like 5 to 15 minutes is like my sweet spot. So I have my attention span long enough to take notes. So I found those of quality. And then I ended up going through and getting my Linux Plus and my CEH. Linux Plus, same kind of format. I think I just took a Udemy course on it. The CEH, I had to go through the training of EC Council, which I don't recommend to anybody. It was completely opposite of what I like. It was like 4 hours of some guy just sitting in front of a computer reading off of PowerPoints, and it was very hard to keep up. So I actually ended up going back to CBT Nuggets and studying there for the CEH. After my help desk, I transitioned into a network engineer role. So I studied for the CCNA. And I ended up using actually INE at that time for studying for the CCNA. And then some of CBT Nuggets CCNA material was pretty good too. Moving into then the real hacking stuff, I started with my OSCP. So in terms of the study cadence, I would study up until the OSCP. I would study pretty much when I had the time. So if there was downtime at work, we weren't getting tickets or, I wasn't doing anything, I was studying. I would come home, I would spend a couple hours a night studying. And, that helped me accelerate through my career really fast from having no IT experience to getting into a hacking position in 2 years. When it got to the OSCP, I knew the time commitment from doing research that I was going to take. So I ended up sitting my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, but sitting her down and saying, hey, like, I really want to do this. This is going to change, our lives for the better. It's what I'm passionate about. But the downside is I need time to go through these labs. So I'm not going to see you very much for the next couple of months. And, it's a temporary struggle for, a longer time of happiness. So, I went through that. I was probably spending, I think I averaged 6 hours a day in the OSCP lab. So I ended up doing days where I did 0 hours, days where I did 12, 15 hours. But it averaged out to about 5, 6 hours a day over, a month and a half is how long it took me. And yeah, so honestly, just studying and finding the time, to do that and reallocating where you needed to, I think was important and helped accelerate, my journey into InfoSec.
So you mentioned EC Council CH certification. So I have one question. For your point of view, CEH versus eJPT, which is a better for someone who just started into ethical hacking?
Yeah, so I like the eJPT, and I'll give you a number of reasons why. First of all, the hands-on aspect I think is good. I know that the CEH has labs. The CEH, has some training aspect to it, but for the hands-on, the exam is practical. I know the CEH just introduced that too, but the exam is practical. And the training is hands-on. You get a PDF, it's free. You get lab experience for free. And at the end of the day, if you want a certification, you're paying $200 versus I think it's 4 figures plus for the CEH. So anywhere up to $1,800 depending on your experience. The downside of the eJPT is it's not as well recognized or well implemented as the CEH. So if we're talking for, having something that stands out in your resume, the CEH is one of those that's better to stand out for, hiring managers. It's not even more of that. It's more of an HR type bypass. So I'm an advocate against the CEH unless your country really, really pushes for it, where some countries do. In the US, it is what's called a Department of Defense 8570 requirement. So, a lot of people will go get that to fulfill that requirement, but I don't think the training is as good or as comprehensive for starting out as the eJPT is.
So, right, just I heard like Elon Security is also integrated with that courses all to INE. My next question is, you have made a ton of courses, most of which are hosted on Udemy. So why do you like Udemy? For what purpose? Don't you worry about piracy or revenue generation?
Yeah, so for me, when I was first starting out, the thought process was, here I am, I'm this little guy in this space, and the market is incredibly saturated with authors and instructors. And while I have reach and I have people that I can possibly sell a course to if I went out on my own, Udemy is a platform that will draw new people who will never find me otherwise. Like, they're not going to see me on Twitter or YouTube. So they're going to just go to the Udemy page. They're going to find me. And I have found possibly a new fan or a new supporter, somebody that's going to say or sing my praises. And that's really the goal, is word of mouth and getting your name out there and growing what, like this little snowball starts small, then just rolls down the hill and grows bigger and bigger. So for me, Udemy was, the option where it was a large platform. I felt like my course and my niche, while the market was saturated, was unique enough that I would introduce something different where, I felt like I could add value to where there was nothing like the course that I was creating. So I brought that in just hopes that it would work well. In terms of piracy, people are going to steal regardless of the platform it's on. And at the end of the day, if somebody needs the course that bad, it is what it is. I don't chase down people for being pirates. I think if you have the money and you can afford it, to then support the people that put in the work to create it. If you don't have the money, you can't afford it. I've always had this motto of pay it back later. I've released my courses several times for free, in the sense that, I understand that education is, can be expensive. And even though it is a $20-$30 course, that's expensive for some places. And so at the end of the day, I think it depends on why you're pirating, and I'm not an advocate for it, but I completely understand. I was a broke kid growing up, and I did my fair share of pirating for materials when I wanted to, learn something, and we couldn't afford it. We couldn't pay for any of that. So I get being on the other side of it, and if people are going to pirate, they're going to do it anyway. I'm not one to chase them down and try to take legal action or anything like that.
But I want to add one more thing. Your first course is a revolution in the field of cybersecurity. Like, it is like a mixture of Active Directory, OSINT, Hack the Box. So I also started from that. So this is a really great thing.
Oh, awesome.
And if like anyone asks me, like, how did you, means I gave the OSCP exam, any material. So I suggest you can like finish the 3 courses of CyberMentor. First, Master Ethical Hacking, Windows Privilege Escalation, and Linux Privilege Escalation. And you can solve all the labs on Try Hack Me path. So I also like your courses. I like it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
My next question is, there is a debate. Some people like bug bounties, some CTF. So what do you prefer and why?
Yeah, between the two. I think that they each have their place. I think you can learn from CTFs and pick up some, I call it one-off scenarios. Like you might run an exploit or a tool or something in a CTF that will come back and be relevant somewhere else. It's just the logic that takes you to get there is probably not going to be very realistic. So, if you like a gamified competition of sorts and you're a competitive person and you like solving a puzzle, I think CTFs are great. From the bug bounty side, you can gamify it too, in the sense that like they have leaderboards. They make it competitive in the sense that you get points and you get reputation and you get impact scores, and you also get money for doing it, where some CTFs you get money too, but nowhere near what you're going to make on the bug bounty side. So I think they're two different beasts that, like, if you were to have a Venn diagram, they would have some overlap. But they're your own unique things. So I think that you can enjoy CTFs and enjoy doing bug bounties, both, honestly.
Okay, so that was a really great answer. My next question is, do you prefer doing a job in security or being an entrepreneur, having experience in both, and why?
Yeah, so I enjoy the entrepreneur side. There was a talk that I was watching not that long ago through Casey Ellis, who's the founder of Bug Crowd, and Hack Luke. He was
Yeah.
interviewing him, and he said something that really stood out in the sense that some people really enjoy being cogs and some people really enjoy being levers. I'm a person that's more of a lever. I'm somebody that, wants to go out and I don't want to, just work for somebody else. I want to make a difference and make a change. And I believe that's, what I'm trying to do on the entrepreneurial side is, seeing a vision and seeing a niche or somewhere that you can fill that hasn't been done before, and making an impact there. So for me, I think it was an easy decision. It wasn't one that I wanted to do necessarily. I didn't have aspirations. Even going through business school, it was never like, yeah, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start a company. But once I got into the job field and started working for other people and realizing that, I feel like I could do this better, or I can make a difference, really led me to wanting to be that lever versus being, just a cog in a system. So, that kind of made the decision easier for me.
But you made a very huge impact over in the field of cybersecurity. You make a really good courses. It's totally amazing. And
Thank you.
and like if we are an entrepreneur, we have freedom when we want to do a work. But in job, that is like if a boss tell you have to come to the 10 p.m. in early morning, we have to do.
Sure. Yeah, there is some freedom and flexibility on the entrepreneur side. The one downside is that everybody's now your boss. You have a lot of responsibilities, like with clients, you have to answer to all of your clients. Before, when you work for somebody else, if a client's angry at you or mad about work or something, you could say, here's my manager, go talk to them. Now you are the manager, you wear that hat, and then you also are manager of people. So you have employees and you provide their paycheck, which if you don't, you're not successful in business, then, and you ever have to let somebody go, then, you're impacting another life that's not your own. Like, so there's a lot of ups and downs. The freedom, flexibility, I 100% agree with you. Like, it is nice. If I want to wake up at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock and sleep in, I absolutely can, if I've got no meetings that day. And, there's definitely positives to being able to make your own schedule and do this work.
Yeah. Thank you, Heath. That was a really great answer. My next question is, what is the current scenario in the market for cybersecurity jobs, the scope, salary, and career growth?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. I think it comes down to economics. I've said this in the past, in the sense that it's really supply and demand. The demand for people in this field is very high. The supply right now is still very low. We have a deficit there. When you have supply and demand, if you have high demand, low supply, prices go up. And that's what we're seeing on the salary side. You're seeing, like, my first job in cybersecurity was $102,000 US. So, and that was working full remote. And that's just because there's not enough people to fill the gap, in my opinion. And there is too, I feel like, a lot of gatekeeping, which I don't necessarily agree with, in the community, where you have the jobs that are posting entry level and they're 5 years experience required with all these certifications, and nobody wants to groom or train anybody to become a pen tester. And I would much rather have somebody with a clean slate that I can bring in and say, hey, here's how we do things, here's how we operate, and let me train you to be a pen tester, more so than waiting for somebody to be a senior level and bring those in. I think that's what's causing a lot of that gatekeeping. And in terms of career growth, I mean, and salary growth too, when I left and went on to my entrepreneur, I was making 140,000, and I think the growth of salary is potentially endless. I've seen salary reports where people there'll be shares in InfoSec where people will pass around an Excel doc, and you just privatize it and you say, here's what I do, here's how much I make. And seeing those salary reports, it's upwards $200,000, $300,000 depending where you work and what you do. And for the career growth, I mean, as long as there's something to break, people are going to break it. So we'll always need hackers. We'll always have defenders. There's always going to be the bad guys and the good guys. That's not going to change. The way that we hack, the way that we do things might change. but the key concepts will always be there year over year. So I don't think there's going to be any issue with career growth or where the industry changes in the next 5-10 years.
So there is a lot of opportunities. You can guys go find out in LinkedIn and apply.
Yeah, and when you're looking for jobs, again, like I touched on the gatekeeping, the best scenario or best situation I think is just to apply anyway. Like the worst thing that can happen is if you apply to a job is they say no. But if you don't apply, you'll never know. And I feel like a lot of people see a job posting and say, "Oh, I won't meet this criteria. I'm just gonna, forget it. I'm not gonna apply." But if you think it's a good job description and that you would actually do well in that job, you would excel in that role, it does not hurt to apply and at least try to get an interview and see if you can do that. I've never landed a job in my life that I was qualified for, that I met the qualifications on paper, but you just apply and see what happens.
So my next question is, you have experience in job interviews. So what do you recommend to a candidate to crack a security job interview?
Yeah, so I think there's the obvious of going out there, getting depending on what the job is, getting the required certifications or getting the training that you can. So if you want to be a hacker and you go look at 10 hacking jobs, you're probably going to see the same tools like Burp Suite, Metasploit, things like that that you need to know. You're going to see OSCP as a recommendation for certification. So like you get these baseline things and that's great. But the problem is everybody else applying also has these baseline things. So how do you stand out? How do you differentiate? And I think it really comes down to what I call soft skills. And that means that what are you doing in your free time that can be good, that can show good things in your resume? Are you giving talks at conferences? Are you attending conferences or volunteering at conferences? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a podcast? Do you have a blog? Are you active on Twitter? Do you do Hack the Box? Do you do Try Hack Me? Do you have a home lab? What can you show to me that tells me you're passionate about cybersecurity outside of working a 9-to-5? And that's not to say that I want you or want somebody that's going to come in and put 50, 60 hours a week in. No, but I want somebody that says, I want to learn outside of work. I want to be passionate about something. And if it's cybersecurity, that's great. That doesn't mean you can't have your own hobbies or do other things, but showing an interest of giving back in the field and just participating and contributing to the community, I think is the biggest thing that could set you apart from somebody else. Volunteering as well is important. So getting in on their cyber communities or even volunteering in things like, I don't know, like Habitat for Humanity or some of the big organizations that are out here. It looks really good. It just shows that you're willing to put in efforts outside of what you do on a 9-to-5 that can contribute back to either the InfoSec community or your local community or, community as a whole. So.
Yeah, so that was a really great idea. Like apart from your studies, do some extracurricular activities like playing the CTFs, organizing a CTF. That was a really great experience. Like I am also part of Deloitte. I am also have a job, and I am also in free times I do a bug bounties. In free times I do a YouTube. So this is the things I also for helping me to getting a job. So yeah, totally agree with your decision.
And you would have a great resume, right? Like you have the technical skills, but everybody that's applying, not everybody, but a good subset have that. But what are you doing to stand out? Well, you have a YouTube channel, you organize a CTF, you work at a Big Four, which is good. And you already have recognition as one of the top hackers. So like those are things that help you stand out in what you do outside of work. And that would be like, that's a great, great resume compared to somebody that I might get that just has an OSCP and, some experience. That resume would stand out more than that, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah. So now my next question is on that resume. So talking about resume, what do you see in a candidate for shortlisting? How to build a strong resume for a security perspective?
Yeah, so if we want to narrow it down to a few lists of candidates, ideally we're looking outside of the soft skills. We're just looking at technical skills for a security position. Being able to identify and accurately list the tools on your resume, like we talked about, the Burp Suite or your Metasploits or even Nessus, things like that we'll commonly use in the field. Any mention of coding skills, so Bash, Python, PowerShell, C#, any of those things would be really good to have on your resume. Web app skills are important, although depending on what you're applying for, if you're applying for like a junior or kind of a beginner level type pen test job, we don't expect you to have the web app skills yet. We're looking at what is your network skills. So do you have OSINT capabilities? Do you know what performing a network pen test would be like? And especially the Active Directory side, which is kind of where I feel like, and that's why we released the training to begin with, is that there's not a lot of Active Directory content out there. There's not a lot of Active Directory training. So when a lot of people are coming into interviews, they're getting slammed with Active Directory questions and have no idea. And I learned that firsthand because I came out of the OSCP like, oh yeah, I'm ready to take on the world. And then I just get crushed in interviews not knowing anything about Active Directory. So being able to have an Active Directory skill set, having built out a lab, can talk about the tools and mention some of the big tools like Responder or Impacket or some of the toolkits that you might use on an internal assessment will look really good. And then being able to back those up in the interview. So a lot of people will put a tool on their resume, and then when we start asking about the interview, like, well, I used it once, and I wouldn't list anything on your resume that you're not ready to talk about in depth. So that's a good way to get shortlisted, is just have the right certifications and have the right tools on a resume. And experience helps, but obviously not everybody's going to have experience coming in.
Yeah, that was a really great answer. Actually, when I give the interview, my mentor has told me, whatever things just those things mentioned on your resume. Because when the interviewer asking the question, he just looking to your resume, which things he does not interested the things you don't know. So mention those things that like if burp shoot, then it's okay. But like if you use only one time, like setting the proxy, that means you don't know about burp shoot.
Exactly. And you will get asked heavily on the tools that you mentioned. So absolutely make sure you're just telling the truth, and being honest in your interview is so important.
So my next question is, how different is a bug bounty in comparison to pen test? And what is your opinion? Should a company host a bug bounty program or get pen tested? Because you have experience in Synac and Cobalt. Also, I see on the LinkedIn, you're also doing a bug bounty. So I think this is
Yeah. So I've been on both sides, and so the comparisons are with bug bounty. You're all about impact. Is at the end of the day is how much impact can you bring to this organization, and the higher the impact, the worse the scenario, the better the payment is. The bug bounty programs do not care about your missing security headers. They don't care about autocomplete enabled on a form. They don't care about minor information disclosure. The little things. And those are like the little risks that, they don't add up to anything right now. There's no impact right now, but those are the risks that on a pen test, we're going to put on the pen test report because it could lead to something later. Not having a security or not having a cookie protection on your cookies, right? Having flags on your cookies. Yeah, it's not anything right now, but what if somebody gets cross-site scripting and they pull down your cookies and now you didn't have that protection, and here's one chained event leading to another. So when you have the little impact or the small impact from the pen test side, it's all relevant. From the bug bounty side, they don't really care about it. Now, when you're talking about when a company should approach a bug bounty program versus being approached by a pen test, I think it comes down to a lot of times to budget. Bug bounty programs are not cheap. If you're going to be in a bug bounty program, you're going to have to be willing to spend thousands of dollars on some potentially critical bugs that they find. Whereas a pen test might run you a one-time fee. Say you do an application, maybe $10,000, where you could maybe pay that for one bug. The flip side of that is a pen test is going to have one set of eyes on that, maybe two sets on that pen test. You get the skill set of the person who's giving the pen test. Whereas a bug bounty program, you have thousands and thousands of people looking at your application, and you're going to have better sleep at night. I would argue that, all these people have come through it. And if they're saying, hey, there's nothing here, then, you can rest a little bit easier because your application is likely more secure than trusting one person. My preference and me personally has always leaned on the pen test side as a pen tester, not as not as an organization, but as a pen tester, because for me, I'm pretty risk adverse. I know that I can go out, I can set an hourly rate, and I can make that hourly rate no problem. And I can set an expected salary for me. With a bug bounty program, it's variance, right? It's not only skill level. You could be the best hacker in the world. There's still going to be waves where you don't find anything for a while. And does that start to eat at you? Does it start to get to you? Does it affect your mentality? For the best, maybe not, but for somebody, that's kind of like in the middle, like me, where, yeah, I can get some bugs, but then I might go for a while. Then if my livelihood's depending on that, I don't feel as comfortable. So I've always been the one to be on the pen test side, and it's just kind of where, my comfort level lies. And I that's kind of my choice. But for a company perspective, if you've got the budget and you're a big company, I think bug bounty programs a pretty realistic and decent idea.
That was a really great answer for pentest versus bug bounties. So my next question is, what are your future plans regarding TCM Security, YouTube, being a professor, etc.? Any future course plan?
Yeah, so we've got a lot going on. So the past week we released the certified
CPEH.
practical ethical hacker. Yeah, so we've got that going on now for the certification side. And the academy side's growing. So I think the first couple of years of being in business, we spent a lot of time focused on being a pen test company that does training. And I think that was the wrong approach. I think we need to be a pen test or a training company that does pen testing. And, while the pen test side of the house is doing great, we're growing and we're hiring, where we can make the most impact and be, the most resourceful is on the training side. So, having just released a new course within the last month or two, and then now the exam, hoping to grow that segment of the business and release future courses and exams. We've got courses coming from instructors that aren't me for the first time, which is going to be great. We've got a course coming on bug bounty hunting, a course coming on physical penetration testing, one that's coming on IDA Pro, one on Python. So, we've got a bunch of new courses and content in creation, and really being able to be kind of a one-stop shop for quality, affordable pricing and training, I think is going to be good and important. On the teaching side of the house, I just started teaching a graduate level hacking course this week. Actually, was the first week, so I'm still in it, but it's going well so far. I'll let you know in a few weeks if I change my opinion on it. But in terms of courses coming to the academy, yeah, we got the new ones coming from other instructors. From me, I tend to release one once a quarter. This quarter, if there's one coming out, it's probably going to be an internal pen test playbook to complement the external pen test playbook that came out, and just cover the internal side of things. So that would be probably next steps, and then creating, I think a junior level and a more senior level exam at some point too is in the near future of our plans.
Yeah. So let's talk about some certifications. So how much does the CPEH prepares a newbie with pen test skills?
Yeah, so I think that depends on your foundational skills. So the training, the recommended training that you go through with the CPEH is you start with the practical ethical hacking, and that is meant to hold your hand and take you from like, hey, I don't really know anything, to being at least competent in internal, external type pen testing. There is some feedback we've gotten in the past is that like, hey, if you've never had any IT experience or networking experience, you're probably going to get a little bit lost, because we assume some IT experience, and then we have a networking refresher where we cover like subnetting and basic stuff. But if you've never been through that before, you kind of have to have that foundational skill set. Otherwise, we bring in Linux instructions, we bring in Python lessons, and kind of guide you there. And then once you're through that course, leads into the OSINT course, and then leads into the external pen test course. So when you combine all that, preparing somebody for being able to pass the exam is the goal. We don't, there shouldn't be any outside resources that you need to use in order to pass the exam. And as long as you have a basic foundation, that's what the training is geared for, is to take you and have you pass I would call it intermediate level type exam that's based on real OSINT. You have to go out there and do real research and perform external pen tests and internal Active Directory pen tests. So training should be adequate to pass that.
Okay. So like after that, which certification do you recommend after CPEH?
Yeah, so I think it depends on your personal preference from there, right? So what was interesting to you during the process is going to be the question. Like it covers on exploit development, it covers on wireless, it covers on web app, it covers on Active Directory. So if you take those categories, I know people who literally just do wireless pen tests, or just do web app pen testing, or just do network pen testing. There's people who just do exploit development. So if there was something through that process in that course that like, wow, that really piqued my interest, then, take it to the next step. There's web app courses, OffSec has them, INE has them. There's additional red teaming type courses or Active Directory type courses with the CRTP, CRTE, CRTO, all these acronym soups. But, there's additional training out there depending on what way you want to go for certifications. There's a lot of additional and advanced training out there.
Thank you for this answer. So my next question is, do you have any plans to come in the bsides Ahmedabad?
Yeah, man, I would love to get there. So at some point I want to come out there. I'm vaccinated now. So once they start, getting conferences back up and, they're allowing travel outside the US to other countries, I would love to come. India, like when I first started out with YouTube, my YouTube channel was like, I don't know, 80-90% US based. And now you go look at my YouTube followers and the subscribers and watchers, it's more Indian than United States. And that's awesome. So like, I truly believe my following in India is bigger than in the United States. And I think I'd be well received. And I would love to come meet all of you guys and, just have a ton of fun. I think it'd be a great time.
Yeah, I am also from the Ahmedabad and community member in the bsides Ahmedabad. So if you come, it will be great. It ends on 26th November.
Okay, you guys are having it live this year?
Yeah, this time is a like physical conference.
Cool, that's awesome. I'll have to look into it and see if I can make it.
Yeah, sure. If you like this video, press the like button. And if you have any question, you can ask on the comment. So the CyberMentor's YouTube and Twitch streaming link, it's displayed. So go guys, follow and subscribe. Hope you guys like this video. Like and subscribe. So this is Pratik Davi, over and out.